Elsa the Snow Queen will be back in movie theaters in less than 3 months, and this time it looks like she'll have trouble finding time to sing between all the battles. To prep you for what's to come, we at The Binger have gone ahead and ranked the top 10 baddies that could appear in Frozen 2. Who will be the baddest? Let's find out. The return of Hans. Our first villain on this list is also the most obvious. Yes, Hans Westergaard, Prince of the Southern Isles, was defeated and exiled at the end of Frozen. But if we've learned anything from sequels, it's that nobody can be counted out until they're dead in the ground. And even then, you can never really be sure. Hans, far from being deceased, is very likely enjoying his time in exile while he plots a triumphant return to Arendelle. Revenge and resentment are very good for one's motivation. Unfortunately for the forces of good, the circumstances are in Hans's favor. As Elsa heads north across the Enchanted Lands with Anna, KRISTOFF, and Olaf, they will be leaving Arendelle to someone else's watch. Who will protect it while they're gone? Will it only be a regiment of regular old guards defending the throne? If so, they would be easily defeated through force or Hans's specialty, trickery. There's no telling what he's been planning in exile, but whatever it is, it will probably be more ambitious than his last scheme, which he hatched right under the nose of his victims. Now that he's had time alone with his imagination, Hans will be coming back with a vengeance. The supernatural world. Disney is staying tight-lipped about the specifics of Frozen 2. They haven't released much in the way of concrete information about the film, but they have put out 2 trailers, and the first shot of each portrays the same battle scene. Elsa stands on the shore of the ocean in the middle of the night. The waves crash with a violence that would frighten even the most seasoned surfer. But Elsa looks determined. She takes off her boots, digs in her feet, and runs straight for the water. She makes stepping stones of ice as she runs toward a towering wave that, despite the ice bridge she shoots at it, crashes over her head, sending her plunging into the depths. The natural world, although not the kind of villain that will lend itself to selling toys, will be one of Elsa's main obstacles in the new movie. In the world of the Disney princess, a tree is not just a tree. A snowman is not just a snowman. And birds will help you put on your clothes. Nature in Frozen is supernatural. Elsa's quest to discover the origin of her powers will lead her to a reckoning with the very forces that created her icy powers. Although it's harder to put a face to its name, the natural world of Frozen will be as formidable a villain as any. The Devil and His Magic Mirror. As you may know by now, the story and characters of Frozen are based very loosely on a fairy tale written by Hans Christian Andersen, almost 200 years ago in 1854. The story tells of a boy named Kai who gets shards of glass from a magic mirror stuck in his eye and heart, changing his perception. Everything begins to look ugly to him except for snowflakes. He's eventually kidnapped by the Snow Queen, upon whom Elsa is loosely based. Gerda, the inspiration for Anna, eventually comes to Kai's rescue, and these shards are removed from his eye and heart through the power of love. Both of the Frozen 2 trailers show scenes with a sky full of what look like stylized shards of glass or ice, possibly from a magic mirror. Any character stuck with one of the shards, no matter how good they were before, could turn right into a villain. If those floating things in the trailer are in fact pieces of the shattered magic mirror, things could get very difficult for Elsa, Anna, Olaf, and KRISTOFF. Who knows, one of them could even become a villain. But the more likely villain is the man behind the mirror. The character who created the looking glass is pretty much ground zero of evil itself, the devil. Resentful of his banishment from heaven, he made a mirror that reflects only the worst aspects of whoever looks into it. He, along with some trolls, tried to take the mirror up to heaven to sabotage God and his angels' self-esteem. But on the way up, they laughed too hard at their evil antics and dropped the mirror, which shattered, its pieces flying all over the world. The fallen angel Lucifer, Beelzebub, might be too religious to be included in a modern Disney film. But a loose adaptation, like what they did with the other characters, is definitely possible. A battle between Elsa and the devil himself could be a great way to cap off her journey to the north. Not to mention a great fit with the darker tone already presented in the new trailers. The Duke of Weselton got his revenge. Just like Hans, the Duke of Weselton was kicked out of Arendelle for his role in plotting the execution of Queen Elsa. To add insult to injury, Kai delivers him a message as he's boarding his boat to leave. Arendelle will be cutting all trade ties with the state of Weselton, which Kai mispronounces Weaseltown. A fitting mistake, because the Duke is a weaselly little man. He slips his way in and out of situations, siding with whoever happens to be on top. He never confronts anyone directly and relies on 2 brawny guards for protection. He never stopped conniving in the first film, so there's no reason to think he'd stop after it ended. In the space between the two movies, he's likely been plotting a way to get back at Elsa, Anna, and the kingdom. Although the time would have been better spent working on his dance moves, it's a safe bet that the two-paid old man will make a return. Maybe even with his old pal Hans. A colossal villain. Although we could speculate for days about the villains that could come to Frozen 2, let's take a minute to talk about one that will be in the movie beyond a shadow of a doubt. Although maybe not as a villain. Not only has it been confirmed, but we've caught a little glimpse. You can see it in the trailer with your own eyes. The huge, rocky-looking character stomps through the back of the shot as Elsa gasps and hides behind a birch tree. The giant brings to mind all sorts of other characters and stories, like the Colossi from the acclaimed video game Shadow of the Colossus, or a resurrected version of the trolls in Norse mythology who turned to stone upon contact with the sun. Maybe we can expect Elsa to scale the monster in a giant battle, or perhaps one giant is gentle and misunderstood. If its stomp is bigger than its bite, then it might even end up on Elsa's side, as a new gigantic sidekick. Regardless of whether this mysterious rock giant turns out to be friend or foe, it'll definitely be fun to watch. A crossover? When Frozen first came out in 2013, yeah, it was that long ago, the idea of a crossover between franchises seemed more like an artless cash-in than something that would turn into the basis of the largest entertainment franchise of all time. But now, nothing is sacred. The MCU has changed the way that consumers and producers conceive of a movie universe. For example, who's to say that there can't be a Disney princess universe to go along with and maybe even rival Marvel's constellation of characters and films? The same way that Tony Stark might show up in Spider-Man, Snow White can make an appearance in Frozen 2. With Disney buying up more studios and slowly becoming a cultural monopoly, they have the freedom to do pretty much whatever they want, except from making Spider-Man movies. They could bring in Ursula from The Little Mermaid and have her lurking in the ocean that we saw in the trailer. Snow White's evil queen could even be a good fit, especially considering her fondness for magic mirrors and her desire to be the fairest in the land, not to mention the snow connection. Could KRISTOFF be the new Hans? In the first movie, Hans impressed everyone with his shiny boots and good breeding. His charm was enough to convince Anna to get engaged to him and for everyone to see him as an all-around chivalrous guy, trustworthy enough to be left in charge of Arendelle. But in Anna's moment of need, inches away from giving her the kiss of true love, he betrays her and tries to stage a coup. To say that no one expected this would be an exaggeration, but his deception did still come as a surprise. Although it may seem unlikely now, could the turncoat in Frozen 2 be KRISTOFF? Sure, he comes from humble beginnings as an orphan and ice harvester, and yes, he does stick by Anna even when she thinks that Hans is the guy for her. But in the cartoon supernatural world of Frozen, all bets are off. If a snowman can come alive and one person can impose indefinite winter, then surely a good person can turn bad. Maybe KRISTOFF could end up being the victim of a shard from the aforementioned magic mirror, which would render the people he loved ugly and worthless in his altered eyes. Flame Nemesis. What makes a villain and a hero a hero? It's usually a pretty fine line, two sides of the same coin even. The villain can often be a misunderstood version of the hero with slightly different powers. This looks to be the case with Frozen 2. The first movie was focused around Elsa's ice powers, and her coming to terms with them throughout the film as the only person with supernatural abilities. But now that she's comfortable as a person with the ability to animate ice and snow, it's likely that she will be confronted by someone else with a similar power. In this case, fire power. Both trailers show short clips of a dancing purple fire. In one instance, KRISTOFF flees the flames with Anna. In the other, Elsa defends herself and Olaf from them, fighting fire with ice. The flames leap from tree to tree. They chase and surround. In other words, this is not normal fire behavior. The only explanation is that there is someone or something controlling the flames and willing them to attack Elsa, Olaf, KRISTOFF, and Anna. The battle between fire and ice will definitely be one to watch. The enemy within. You just had to see this one coming. The internal struggle of the hero is one of the most enduring conflicts in the history of storytelling, and with good reason. It's not easy balancing your own feelings and personal life on the one hand, and the fate of your clan, kingdom, or universe on the other, especially if you're ostracized for the very thing that makes you so exceptional. In Elsa's case, there are her winter powers. Although they've been accepted by her family, friends, and subjects in Arendelle, their origin remains a mystery, and Disney's synopsis of the new film says that the origin of Elsa's powers is calling her and threatening her kingdom. You can be sure that Elsa's quest across the Enchanted Lands will find her battling countless villains along the way. But as she travels to the north, her real journey will likely be towards the center of herself, where she will have to come to terms with her exceptional circumstances and likely some new information about her past. As for what that information will be, or exactly how her inner struggle will play out, your guess is as good as ours. Frozen 2 is set to be a lot scarier than the original. Of all the villains that might be in the new film, which one would be the best? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to The Binger for all your Frozen needs.